we went back to your papers at the University of Tennessee and read through them. This is what you said back in 1994 as a candidate. Here's the first one. I'm not willing to support laws that prohibit early term abortions. I'm not suddenly upon election to the Senate going to know when life begins and where that place ought to be exactly. It comes down to whether you believe life begins at conception. I don't know in my own mind if that is the case, so I don't feel the law ought to impose that standard on other people.
Yeah.
So you yourself don't know when life begins?
No, I didn't know then.
You know now?
My head has always been the same place. My public position has always been the same. I've been 100% pro-life in every vote I've ever cast in my service in the United States.
But Senator, you say that, but you're for states having... Let me finish, because this is important. You're for allowing states to have pro-abortion rights, and you yourself, and I have 10 different statements from you, say that you would not ban abortion, it's a woman's right, and you would not ban it in the first trimester.
No, well, you've just said two different things here. As you know, it's a complex issue concerning whether or not you're going to have a federal law, whether or not you're going to have a federal constitutional amendment, those kinds of things. Nobody's proposed a federal law on this. Nobody's recently proposed a federal constitutional amendment. I had an opportunity to vote on an array of things over 8 years, whether it be partial birth abortion, whether it be Mexico City policy, whether it be transporting young girls across state lines to avoid parental notification laws, all that. 100% pro-life. But let me finish on my point. And my legal record is there, and that's the way I would govern if I was president. I would take those same positions. No federal funding for abortion, no nothing that would in any way encourage abortion. When I saw, and again, all consistent with what I've said, people ask me, hypothetically, you know, okay, it goes back to the states. Somebody comes up with a bill, and they say, we're going to outlaw this, that, or the other. And my response was, I do not think it is a wise thing to criminalize young girls and perhaps their parents as aiders and abettors, or perhaps their family physician. And that's what you're talking about. It's not a sense of the Senate. You're talking about a potential criminal law. I said, those things are going to ultimately be won in the hearts and minds of people. I'm probably a pretty good example of that. Although my head and my legislative record's always been the same, when I saw that sonogram of my little now 4-year-old, it's changed my heart. It's changed the way I look at things. I was looking at my child when I saw that, and I knew that, and I felt that, and that's the way I feel today. And I think life begins at conception. It was abstract to me before. I was a father earlier when I was very young. I was busy. I went about my way. One of the maybe few advantages you have by getting a little bit older.
So while you believe that life begins at conception, the taking of a human life?
Yes, I do.
You would allow abortion to be performed in states, if chosen by states, for people who think otherwise?
I do not think that you can have a law that would be effective and that would be the right thing to do, as I say, in terms of potentially, you can't have a law that cuts off an age group or something like that, which potentially would take young girls in extreme situations and say, basically, we're going to put them in jail to do that. I just don't think that that's the right thing to do. It cannot change the way I feel about it morally, but legally and practically, I've got to recognize that fact. It is a dilemma that I'm not totally comfortable with, but that's the best I can do in resolving it in my own mind.